Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Alyx King here with special guest Bill G. Today is Tuesday, February the 12th, 2019. It's 4 p.m. in New York, 1 p.m. in Los Angeles, 9 p.m. in London, Sydney, Australia is at 8 a.m. But wherever you are in the world, thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And those of you listening to the live stream, thank you for your patience. We had a 4 different technical glitches to iron out, but we did. We got there, and we're smiling. We've been practicing the smiling, so we're in good stead. Bill is struggling to stay awake, which is a good thing for him because he's been dealing with some feverish conditions over the last few days. But he is a trooper, and he is here as promised. So, Bill, I want to thank you for being here. And if you need something to prop yourself up, feel free to grab it right away. Okay.
I'm good to go.
All right, sounds good. And Alyx, of course, we talked this morning, and we had a good show this morning. We had an interesting thing. We were talking, Bill, about a couple of articles that I found in the Harvard Business Journal, talking about some research reported upon by Sean Aker and his associate. Of course, I'm going to forget her name. Gielan was her last name. Melanie, I can't think what her name is. That's terrible. I'm so sorry, Ms. Gielan. But really good articles on a lot of the research that's been done showing just how important it is to do things like stay away from the negativity of news broadcasts and news articles that are related to things that we have absolutely no control over, and how when we pay attention to those things, they really, really bring us down. The research shows very significant increases in negative focus just by listening to or watching 3 minutes of news. Did you know that, Bill? 3 minutes of news can actually ruin your day?
That happens to me.
Happens to you?
Well, like I said before, I used to be a big news junkie. I think the same thing as you. I mean,
absolutely.
I used to read all kinds of news articles from a gazillion different sources so I can get an idea of what the whole picture was on a certain issue and whatever.
Right.
And then sometime, I think last September, I decided to just stop cold turkey and just to see how that would change how I felt. And my energy started coming back. I started feeling better about myself.
Absolutely.
And then recently, I'm right now I'm doing a temporary stint doing taxes, and sometimes you get little breaks between clients and whatever. And I thought, just for the heck of it, I'll just throw up one of those old news sites and see how it makes me feel. And kid you not, I didn't even read the articles, just the headlines alone.
Yeah.
Put my energy down to such a state. I was like, turn that off. And the thing is, my family accuses me of putting my head in the sand. And I'm like, well, I'm not any less wise than I was before, but I'm a lot.
Yeah. And listeners may not know this. Alyx, I'm not sure if you know this either, but Bill and I actually used to do a show together about the news. Before we were doing LOA Today, years ago, he and I did a show called The Freedom News Hour on the Progressive Radio Network on PRN. And the reason I said the thing about 3 minutes to him was knowing full well that he and I would talk about the news for an entire 60-minute hour. And we do it every week, so we were both basically inundating ourselves with massive amounts of negative vibration every single week.
And then being able to talk about it intelligently.
Yes, right. As if there's an intelligent way to talk about negativity, right?
Right.
Right.
Well, in the news this week, no, we won't go there. But yeah, I mean, it was an eye-opener reading some of the stuff that we read today. In fact, they apparently did a thing at, I can't remember, one of the insurance companies, which has been implemented at hospitals and so forth. I've seen this kind of thing before, where upper management decides that the general policy of the hospital is whenever employees see each other, they smile at each other, and when they get within 10 feet of each other, they're supposed to greet each other. Yes. And I can't remember which company it was. I think it was Northwestern Mutual think it was that one.
It was something with a catchy commercial because when you said it, I was singing the commercial in my head.
It was the other one because there were two insurance companies. I can't remember which the other one was, but you're right. There was a second one. But there was this massive increase in productivity in the company. And once again, reinforcing something we've all heard before, which is when you introduce these little positive things, it makes such a huge difference. But they had actually narrowed it down, Bill, to the point where it all started with how you began a conversation. If you begin your conversation with something like, I'm so swamped, you're basically setting up the entire conversation for negativity, whereas if you start the conversation with, it's so good to talk to you again, it's a completely different conversation. And that the vibration that comes off of that is just massive.
My former employer, which was a hospital here in Rutland, implemented that policy, where I think they called it the 10-5 rule.
Yes, right.
And so when they're when somebody is within 10 feet of you, you smile. Whether it's a patient, a fellow employee, an executive, doesn't matter who it is. You have to smile at them when they're 10 feet away from you. And if they get within 5 feet of you, you have to say hello.
Yes.
With a smile.
You have to greet them. That's right.
You have to greet them. And they took it a step further is that whenever you were in a meeting, the person who led the meeting had to begin the meeting by thanking everybody who was there, thanking everybody and saying, I know everyone's time is precious. Thank you all for coming. And, and it was all about making people feel good about being in the meeting. And because meetings, especially when you've got meeting after meeting after meeting, they get very tedious after a while. And especially since the subject of the meetings are usually not the most positive things in the world because you're dealing with patients and insurance and finance and whatever, things that aren't exactly happy things. They implemented this policy so that way at least the meeting can go off on a positive note, and that way, and then productivity went up as a result. So, and they were able to demonstrate this mathematically through an employee engagement survey, which they do every year.
Yeah.
And one of the questions on the employee engagement survey is, I feel engaged and valued by this organization, and those numbers went up.
Yeah, exactly.
So the proof was in the pudding there.
Right. Yeah. I remember the first time I heard about one of those studies. It was about a hospital, I believe in Honolulu. I could be wrong about the location, but I think it was Honolulu. And the way that story was told, they implemented the policy, but the doctors weren't on board. The doctors refused to participate because they considered it to be beneath their pay grade. They were here to heal people. They couldn't be bothered with playing these little stupid psychology games. But the funny result was, after the policy had been implemented for a while, the retention rate of doctors skyrocketed.
Right.
Because they found that even if they got better offers elsewhere, they just liked working there. It was such a better place to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they first implemented the policy, they ran into the same resistance with doctors. Because again, doctors have this, there's a subculture within the doctor community, especially in a large, medium to large hospital, where they feel like, well, that is beneath them. That nurses are there to obey their orders.
Yes, exactly.
And the staff are there to serve them and whatever. But then the CEO at the time, insisted and, put them into all sorts of special training and corrective actions and all that stuff. And then eventually they got a clue and it worked.
It's funny because, the part that is funny is not the fact that Louise has had to go see doctors. That part is not funny. But the part that is funny when going to see the doctors is a number of times Louise has clued them in that we're very much into maintaining positive thinking and celebrating victories and all that kind of thing. And you can just see on almost all of them, to a man, almost every single one of the doctors, there's a first thought that is a rejection of how laughable that is, and then there's the second thought that is, oh, that's right in line with the hospital policy. I better not say anything at all. Which is pretty funny. So, Oh, and Alex, Jeffrey put a note up. Loving Alex's look right now, the hair. So your hair is a hit.
I know, right?
Your hair is a hit. Like, I'm telling you.
I curled it yesterday. I'm loving it. I just threw it up in a bun, and I was just like, that's just what's going to happen today.
It's actually noteworthy when you don't color it.
I know, right?
Right, because you always have color in it.
I've gotten so many compliments on the natural hair color, more compliments than I have on the colored.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But that's only on Facebook amongst like family and friends. When I go out, the colored hair is more complimented.
Because they haven't seen you like that. They haven't seen you, but they haven't seen that.
They don't know me, yeah.
That's right, exactly. I should hope.
That's true. They don't know the difference. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Which is fun. That's okay. So
thank you, Jeffrey.
Yes, absolutely. So we don't really have a set topic for the day. If you have any topics you want us to address, feel free to type them into the comment section.
We can continue talking about my hair. It's totally fine.
Well, all right, then let's take a survey. How many people think that Alex should continue to go with the au natural, colorless hair approach? Bill, what's your vote on that?
I was thinking of going pink next.
You're going pink next? Okay.
I'm thinking about it.
Whatever makes you happy.
Well, that's what my boyfriend said, so
Yep.
he said, yeah.
That's a good, safe answer. I like that one. That's good.
Yeah.
I like his answer, too. Yeah, I agree.
Good. Yep. Follow the boyfriend's lead. It's a good policy.
Especially when he's paying for it, so, you know. I'm like, whatever you say, hon.
You know, Alex, you and I did a little video as part of a larger video that I'm putting together to promote a local workshop about law of attraction and relationships. And you told a really great part of that story of how you guys met. A little piece of that was you received the contact from him. And
yes.
After the contact, you're texting, and he says, I don't really like texting. Can I call you? And you said, well, that sounds like, that's novel. That's kind of unusual. It's a good idea. And then, what did you follow up? There was a follow-up question. Do you remember what the follow-up question was?
I said, before I give you my number, what are your intentions?
And what did he say?
And then he said, to buy you flowers and treat you right.
And your reaction was?
And then I was like, okay, you can have my number. Okay. All right, I'm here for it.
I actually love the way you reacted on the first video we did, because you clapped your hands.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm up for this. This is good.
Yes, Y-E-S.
That was great. I love that. I keep playing that part of the video over and over again just so I can see that.
Anytime you need to pick me up.
That's right. Oh, yeah. So that's fun. So let's see, what should we talk about? We can carry on the conversation from this morning, but one thing I really liked this morning was we spent a lot of time talking about stuff that feels good. Yeah. Even though we start off with, it was kind of a negative topic, negative news, right? But we segued pretty quickly into stuff that feels good. And I'm realizing that's something I want to do more of. I want to focus more on stuff that feels good, in part because I want to reinforce for not only for ourselves but for listeners just how you do that. I mean, as you go through your day, right? I mean, Bill, you're right now you're going through some pretty difficult stuff because you're doing people's taxes. Taxes is not exactly the cheeriest thing in the world, especially when you're interacting with a client who doesn't really want to pay the taxes in the first place, but they certainly don't want to have to pay more than they should have to. And you're on the line about that.
Well, actually, what's interesting is at this point in the tax season, which is the early part of the tax season, it's very, very busy. But most of the people that come in are looking for their big refunds. And the people that I generally see are the people who get the big refunds, because these are people who have very little money to begin with. They've got more kids than they can handle. They're living in a trailer or whatever. They're in a really bad place. And so they're generally very happy to see me. Because by the time we get done, the company that I work for, we guarantee your highest refund possible, and or it's free or whatever, and we have a guarantee. So they know I'm going to do a good job, and I start off the meeting very, very happy because on my desk, I don't know if I have one to share here. No, I don't. I have a little Buddha. It's called Little Sid. And he's a Buddha, and he's sitting there, and he's got a big smile on his face. He's got two big thumbs up. And it's put out by a company called the Suburban Monk.
Suburban Monk.
Okay.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's a good friend of mine who owns the company, and so it sets the tone right at the beginning of the meeting that we're here to give you happy news. Mm-hmm. And occasionally I do come across a client who ends up owing in the end, but I keep the interview light. I keep it personal. I keep it compassionate. And so that way, even if I'm delivering bad news, I've given them sound tax advice to turn that around so that next year they won't have bad news. Mm-hmm. And that the reason why they're in this place right now is maybe they made a mistake, maybe they didn't have enough withholdings or whatever, but next year all you need to do is you need to go to your employer, you need to adjust your W-4, whatever. You need to do some. These are the steps you need to take in order to give yourself a better outcome next year. Mm-hmm. And they usually thank me. We leave smiling, and that's the end of it. I mean, I've been doing this for 4 years now, and only once had a client threaten bodily harm, but guy had other problems.
Yeah, but by the way, Jeffrey wants to know when we're going to be doing a show on taxes and the law of attraction. So we'll get back to you on that one, Jeffrey. But yeah.
Oh, I could definitely talk about that.
I bet you could, actually. But even so, I mean, I love the fact that you have that approach with the clients, but you've got to get yourself into that really good feeling place first, don't you? Otherwise, you really can't be a benefit to them that way. So what's your technique? How do you get through your day? Because the pressure's on. I mean, you're dealing with some difficult stuff. So how do you keep yourself high?
Well, first of all, I only do it for half a day.
That helps.
So
that helps.
And second of all, every morning I meditate. For 1 hour I meditate before leaving for work in the morning. And then, once I'm at the job and before somebody comes in, I take a look at their last year file if I happen to have their last year file there, so that way I get to know a little bit more about them. Mm-hmm. And then when they come in, I can greet them, I can say hello, I know all their kids' names, and then I can. And the first question we ask them in just the standard interview was, "Tell me about your year." And then I know that if they tell me something that wasn't in the file, we've got something to talk about. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we find that we have some things in common. Some people are dealing with very difficult family situations, mm-hmm. and how I keep that good feeling place inside myself is, even when somebody is telling me something very tragic, like recently I had a client whose husband has terminal pancreatic cancer and probably not going to live through the year. Mm.
Wow.
And so, I was talking to the spouse, and she was having a difficult time dealing with it. Mm-hmm. But we talked about it. And then I also talked about the tax implications because, that's my job.
Right.
And, but at the same time, I've been giving out a lot of my cards, my business cards for my counseling services. And even though they don't normally call me for an appointment, them knowing that I do this for a living, I'm a professional listener.
Yes, right.
Mm.
Puts them in a place where they're at ease and I'm at ease, and they know that no matter what they tell me, no matter how devastating what it is they're going to tell me, that I'm going to continue to respect them, and I'm going to respect their space, and on top of that, I'm going to give them the best possible outcome that I'm able to give them.
So that's good. You put yourself into I'll call it a power position. It's a positive power position. It's not like power over somebody else. It's a positive power position where you can be doubly helpful to them. And that, I can see how that's going to. It's going to be kind of like working with a cat who likes to bump into the microphone as she, climbs into my lap. What do you mean you're doing a podcast? You're supposed to be petting me. Get with the program here.
Now that's a power position.
That is a real power position, no doubt about it.
One of our cats is, her name's Polly, and she's a polydactyl cat, so she's got like an extra toe. And she is our therapy cat. So whenever she loves working. So whenever a client comes to the house, she comes down, she greets them, she sits on their lap for a little while, and then when they go up on you can see in the background, we got a massage table over here because that's where Nina does her acupuncture with clients when they come to the house. As soon as they're on the table and they're getting ready to put the needles in, Polly jumps onto the lap and sits with them the entire time.
Oh, wow.
And just purrs away. And there's been studies shown that cats are great at absorbing negative energy when it comes to people who are sick. And when I was very ill this whole weekend, Polly was sitting with me on the bed almost the entire time. In fact, I don't even recall from Saturday night till Sunday afternoon and even into Monday where she left my side.
Wow.
So she was with me the entire time. And when she left, then I know, hey, I'm out of the woods. I took my temperature and said, oh, great, the fever broke.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty darn cool, I tell you.
Yeah, she's our therapy cat.
Now, has Chloe learned that, Alyx? Has Chloe learned how to be the therapy dog?
Well, yes. I mean, that's like the second part of her job. So, like, if I'm having a panic attack or something, then she will sit on my chest and breathe with me and try to regulate my heartbeat by matching my heartbeat with her heartbeat. So, yeah, she does do that. And then, Rusty notifies me when I'm about to have a seizure. So he's, well aware.
That's cool. Pets are wonderful things. I mean, especially service dogs, but any pets, they're wonderful. They're just the best animals, best people in the world.
Agreed.
No doubt about it. Let's see. So what else can we talk about that's from a law of attraction deliberate creator perspective? Well, actually, Bill, I want to give you a moment to talk about your book because we did talk about that last time you were on the show. But all right. First, let people know what you do. Because you have a second book. Okay, so tell us what the two books are. And tell us what it is that you do. I mean, you mentioned that you're a listener, but talk about that a little bit.
Yes. I'm a spiritual counselor / life coach. What I do is I use a method called spiritual response therapy, which was developed by Robert Detzler. And how it works is it uses a pendulum and a set of charts developed by Robert. And what we do is we figure out what it is that is blocking somebody's highest expression. We clear it. We go into their soul records. We clear it, and then we replace it with whatever it is in their highest destiny. How it works, along with the law of attraction, is that there are many people who complain who are either new to law of attraction or have been practicing it for a while, who find themselves to be blocked. They, as much as they try to be deliberate creators, no matter how much they try and meditate and think about it, and there's a block. There's something that's preventing them from doing that. And what I find most often is that it's a soul program that's getting in the way, and then we clear that out, and then their soul is then free to receive the good circumstances in order to live their highest destiny. My two books. First book is called The Conscious Conduit: A User's Guide to Ascension. That book is divided into 3 parts. The first part is about how to be a better conduit for spiritual energy. The second part is about how to then turn that knowledge, that connection into a business. And then the third part is how to deal with challenging clients, because there are clients don't come to see you unless they have challenges.
This is true.
It would be great if all my clients were like, oh, I just want to give this a shot because everything's going right with me.
That would simplify it. It wouldn't be much challenge, but it would be simplified.
That's not really, that would be more challenging for me because then I have to dig for something. Usually I can tell within the first 5 minutes, I think I got an idea of where that's coming from. Let's check.
Okay.
The second book is called Spirit Path Book of Days. I write a weekly blog on my website, which is ninag.com, ninagee.com. And what the Spirit Path Book of Days is a collection of my 2018 blogs, which I compiled into a book. And both of those books are available as ebooks or as softcover books on Amazon. The Conscious Conduit was published through Balboa Press, which is a division of Hay House, and the Spirit Path book was just done through KDP.
Very good. Yeah, so you've been busy. That's good stuff.
I've been very busy. I'm working on another book right now. That one's probably going to be a long-term case study, but that one's going to have to wait for the summertime because tax season's got to end, and then I have to move. So this life is going to get in the way of that one for a little bit.
Yeah, you're moving from one part of northern New England to another part.
Yeah. I'll be closer to you guys' neck of the woods. So, we'll be the New England troop of LOA Today.
I love it. Very good. There's something else I was going to bring up about that, too. Something, and I should have made a note because I forgot where it is. But having to do with your book and your practice with pendulums and so forth. Oh, I know what it was. I saw a post on Facebook by a woman who said that she had been informed she needed to go through therapy. She had some stuff that she needed to dig out, and she was reluctant to do it. She really didn't want to do it. She was kind of asking for some general advice, should I, shouldn't I? And her reason for not wanting to do it was because it would bring up a whole bunch more junk, and she didn't really want to bring up all the junk. So my reaction.
That's what's blocking you.
Yeah, well, my reaction was, okay, well, then you have a decision to make. You have to decide whether you want to live with the junk or you want to get it out of the way so you can, attract the kind of life that you want. But I'm curious. I mean, you obviously aren't getting somebody necessarily who's been advised to undertake therapy. But if you did get somebody who had been told that, would you say, go ahead, do the therapy? Would you say, make your own decision? Would you say, come and let me help you with the pendulum? Where does what you do fit into that?
The first thing I would do is I would check for myself. Because what I would do at that point is I would make sure that I was clear and that I was free of all expectation. So, because, I love to get new clients, but at the same time, I need to let that go when I ask the question. Because I need to know I need to do what's best for the client. And so I ask the pendulum, I ask high self, what does this client need? Does this client need me? Does this client need somebody else doing something similar? Or do they need something else? And then the pendulum will show me immediately if that's what's going on. And, I have had people come to me wanting to see me, and I've had other people just wanting that exact same kind of advice like what that person on Facebook did. A lot of times, through Facebook, people want it for free, which is, I'm happy to do it from time to time, but, this is my livelihood, so it is hard to do that sometimes. But I also have to be reminded though of what, Yogananda teaches is that the highest form of self-expression is to be of service to others.
Mm-hmm.
And so
That's
I have to I need to remind myself of that sometimes as well, that it's not all about, whether or not what my bank account looks like, because the universe will provide.
Mm-hmm.
So lately I have actually been doing more pro bono stuff. I don't want to make a habit out of it, but I have been doing it, especially in terms of the initial consult, because some people are on the fence whether or not this is going to work for them.
Right.
And so I sometimes do workshops. I just did one this past weekend, right before I got sick, when we were talking about unblocking abundance.
Mm.
And I had a couple people show up to that. Nobody signed up to be a client, but they all bought books. So hey,
that's worthwhile. That's a good a good weekend right there. But that is that's the challenging line to walk. I've walked it myself. I know a number of my co-hosts have. I think everybody kind of decides where their line is, and then the smart ones say, okay, once we get past the line, now we're in charging territory, and they let people know appropriately. Right. But I mean, here on the podcast, I mean, I everything I've done here on the podcast has all been pro bono in a sense, because I mean, there's not been any pay for it. Mm-hmm. Although Alyx is trying to turn that around, because Alyx is
sure am.
She drinks Monster, and she's actually approached Monster about being a sponsor. So wouldn't that be cool? Oh wait a minute, I'm not supposed to say awesome. That. You haven't negotiated the actual deal yet, so I didn't actually say that name. But other than that,
it's coming.
It's coming. That's right. But yeah, that's the line that you try to walk. I've actually been thinking about, what happens when we do get to the point where, right now we're like around 200 people per episode on average, listening to it each episode. And what happens when we get to the thousands? That's when things really start to become very monetizable. So do I do advertising? Do I ask for donations? Do I turn this into a merchandising thing? And I've talked to both of you guys independently about this kind of thing. And it's a quandary, because there's a part of me that says, I am doing this as a service, not just to everyone else, but to myself. This is something that we all get benefit out of. And yet, by the same token, we got to earn a living, So it's a kind of a tough line to walk.
Nobody ever got rich doing this kind of work. At least not too many people get rich doing this kind of work. I mean, it is a labor of love. Mm-hmm. But you got to eat.
Yes, you do. That's right. And there are a few who have gotten rich, not many, but I mean, Esther Hicks is doing very well, for instance. But you're right, not most people.
Yes.
Most people, it is a labor of love, which is what it should be. I mean, that's why I got into doing this in the first place. I just love doing this. Much more than I love doing the Freedom News Hour. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Well, one of the things that I'm planning on doing after I move to the Portsmouth area is along the I-95 corridor, going all the way from Connecticut all the way up through Maine. Almost every weekend, starting in the spring, there's psychic fairs going on.
Right.
And some of them are well attended, some of them are not so well. I mean, some of them are in depending on where it is and how long it's been around. Depends on how they're doing. And what I'm planning on doing is last year I went to one where I paid for a booth and I sat there the whole day and I did not make my money back. I mean, it was still a labor of love in the sense that I got to meet some nice people and saw some potential clients, got my card out there, which was nice. But at the same time, but thinking myself afterwards, there's got to be a smarter way of doing this.
Yeah.
Because all I really wanted to do, or what I wanted to accomplish, is just get people to know me. Mm-hmm. And sitting behind a booth all day is not usually the most efficient way of getting people to know you, especially if the people you want to know who you are the other people sitting behind booths.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, that creates a bit of an ethical quandary right there.
My plan for this coming year, I mean, I still have the booth supplies. I might do one or two of those, but my plan is to be an attendee at as many of these as possible. Bring my speaker. I've got speaker one sheets, for when I do guest speaking and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I plan on giving out my speaker one sheets. I plan on giving out my business cards and actually going around to each table and talking to people and getting as many speaking engagements as I can. So that way that'll help build up the business. And that's my plan.
That's a good plan.
Whether or not it works, I don't know. We'll have to see how it we'll see how it works out. But, I checked that out with Spirit, and Spirit says, hey, yeah, go for it. So, hey, I'm going to go for it.
Okay. Well, that's the nice thing. You have the pendulum. You can always ask, right? You did.
That's right. And the thing is, and sometimes I don't ask for a straight yes, no on this, because, I know that sometimes my ego can get in the way of the answer, especially if I've got a big personal stake in the answer. So I'll get around it by asking, hey, Spirit, what's the percentage of positive energy towards this decision? And if it gives me 100%, then I know, okay, then there's a good chance that this is a good decision. If it gives me anything less than that or less than 50%, then I can say, okay, well, the answer then is probably no, because if I ask a straight yes, no, without any gauge, of what the positive energy is, then my ego can get in the way. And I mean, not that ego is necessarily a bad thing. You just don't want it getting in the way when you're asking an important question.
Yeah, I hear you. By the way, we're getting some appreciation out here. Sarah is saying, I really would like to thank you all for putting time and effort into giving to others. I love watching your video feeds. I'm learning a lot and really trying to grow. And so thank you, Sarah. We love the fact that you're one of our regular listeners. I certainly do.
Thank you, Sarah.
Really appreciate that. And then Jeffrey says, can we collectively, energetically focus on bringing in money for those of us participating in our labors of love? That's a good request.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really good. I like that. So, yeah, sure. I think you just did, Jeffrey. You just let us in it.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. That was good. Yeah, it's one of those things. I've actually been trying to take cues lately from Steve Rowell, who's also one of our new co-hosts. Steve is from the UK, has a remarkable story of his own, kind of similar to Joel's in many ways. But he, among other things, is a relatively speaking, new to law of attraction, meaning he's only been into it for like the last 4 or 5 years, something like that. But he is a fast learner. He and his wife kind of jumped right in with both feet. And one of the ways they did it, he was just telling me the story, was how they got their home. They just bought a home, not just, but within the last few years they bought their home. And at the time that they bought it, they went home shopping without a dime to their name. They had no money in the bank. They had no way to afford a home. They went home shopping, and they actually put in an offer without having any money. And their offer was accepted. And now, of course, you're up against, having to meet deadlines in terms of putting the money up and so forth. Well, the kind of sad part is that Steve had, when he was young, he had been sexually abused by a member of the Church of England. The good news, and I'm still blown away by this. I think I told you this, Alyx, this morning. But
yeah.
Bill, I'm blown away by this. The day that I started my podcast was September 26, 2012, which is my 13th wedding anniversary. That's how I remember that. That's the same day Steve sent in his letter to the Church of England demanding reparation for what was done to him. And here he is appearing on the podcast 6.5 years later, announcing that not only is he now a member of the podcast, but he is now in the middle of negotiations with the Archbishop of Canterbury's office to become an advocate for sexual abuse survivors. And I'm thinking, wow, the circularity of that is just absolutely incredible. But because of that, because of that rather horrible experience, they ultimately did come through with the money just a couple days before the money was due on that house. That's how they paid for the house. So the money manifested at the last possible second on a house that they didn't have money for when they first put in the offer on it. The offer was accepted, the money showed up, and they own the house. Now, if he can do that, well, surely we can do something, to kind of move things along. And I'm thinking, am I as daring as Steve is? I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. I'm paying attention to see, can I push myself that far out like Steve did? Stay tuned. I'll let you know.
What's interesting is, I got laid off from my job at the hospital, November 1st. And I've basically done that same thing that Steve did.
Yeah.
Is I put myself out there saying, okay, I'm done with the corporate world. I'm going to be full-time counselor, and it's going to work. And they gave me a 3-month severance, and it's now been 4 months, and I'm not homeless yet, so that's great.
You might want to turn that phrase around, but yes, that's good.
but what's cool though is I asked Spirit, he's like, is the money a problem? And he said, no problem. And again, over and over again, no problem. And so, the beginning of the month, I filed my taxes, since that's one of the perks of being your own tax guy.
That's right.
Is that you get to file your taxes first.
Yep.
And I found out what my refund is going to be, and that's going to get me through another 6 months.
Ooh.
Nice.
Oh, very nice. Oh, I like that.
That was very, very nice to find out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the reason why we're moving to Portsmouth is my wife got a job offer at an acupuncture clinic there, which does very, very well for itself. And after interviewing with them, they indicated that she will be able to quadruple her income and not have to do any marketing, no guest speaking, and she'll basically be able to do all the things she likes with acupuncture, which is just treating patients.
Right.
And none of the stuff she doesn't like, which is all the business aspect of it and all the guest speaking and all that other stuff that you have to do in order to build a practice from scratch.
Wow.
And it was one of those freak things, came out of nowhere, and it was, again, law of attraction doing its thing. And so now we can't move there until June, because because New Hampshire is weird as far as its acupuncture laws. The Board of Acupuncture only meets like once a year, and they meet in late May. So she wouldn't even be able to get her license until then anyway. So I was like, hey, it's tax season. I'll get through tax season. We've got our income tax refund coming in. That'll give us enough money to get through, get us enough money to move. Bada bing, bada boom. We moved to the Portland area and the Portsmouth area, and she'll have this decent job, and I'll be in a better position and a better location to build my practice. So it's a win-win. And again, it's another one of those things where the divine timing was right. And if I had on November 1st, I had instead decided to panic, and so I came home because, these are things you don't forget. You come home, box in hand, with all your personal belongings from your desk.
Yes.
And, because I've been there before. I've been laid off on other jobs before. I've been terminated. I've been laid off. And so the drill after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so in all the other instances, I panicked. And it's like, okay, I've got to get another job exactly like the one I just got lost, just like the one I got lost. And, since there are no jobs here, we have to move immediately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because, so we need to pick a place on a map and go there and hope for the best that I can get a job there, because right here ain't working for us anymore. Pack up the truck, let's go. And that has always ended up putting us in a situation where we were in a worse position than we were before. And so this wasn't any different. We could have still been in a worse, the risk that I decided to take here could have put us in an even worse position. But by choosing the higher vibrational choice, we were able to, we were actually allowing the law of attraction to work for us, rather than working against us, being afraid that bad things were going to happen.
And that allowing worked, because look at all the stuff that's coming about as a result of that allowing. That allowing is just
right.
It's coming in fast and furiously. The timing is. I mean, even the timing of it all happening so that within a month or so, it's happening to the point where the licensing board for the acupuncturist is right in line with when you're having to make your change. It's a little bit later than perhaps you might want it, but it's pretty darn close.
Pretty darn close. Because, tax season's over April 15th, and that gives us a month and a half to pack up the house and move.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So everything's just.
I mean, we still haven't found a place yet, but we're going to Portsmouth on the 8th of March. To check it out. Venus got a one final interview. It's mostly just a shadowing, just to see if she's a good fit with the team. I'm not anticipating any problems. And then, we're going to take a little look around. And then after that's done, then we start the house hunting process and see what we get.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the house that we're in right now was another one of those law of attraction things, in the sense that we were living in Kentucky at the time, living with relatives. We were in an unhappy situation. And so we said to the universe, we want a house where we can take care of my mother-in-law, because she lives with us. So we can take care of my mother-in-law. We can raise our son in a nice, quiet neighborhood at a price we can afford.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this was the first place I found on the internet. And then, we got a realtor to take a look at a couple other places, which were no good. But we went to see this one and it was like, this is it. This is exactly the house in our vision. This is exactly what we needed. And it's right at the price we can afford. And they said, well, there's one person ahead of you on the bidding for this house. I was like, that's not a problem. So, we went back to Kentucky. I learned I got the job that this was not the hospital job. This was another job. And I called them up. It's like, I want the house. And they were like, okay, it's yours. What happened to the other guy? We don't know.
I don't know, Alex. I would say that Bill is being a little bit inspirational here. Are you feeling inspired? I am.
No, I'm feeling empowered.
Empowered.
Oh, good.
Empowered is actually better. Yeah, you're right.
Empowered is the word of the day, so.
No, I'm going to pin you down though. Where does that empowerment? Where do you want that empowerment to take you? What's the next goal?
Ooh. The next goal is sponsorship of Monster.
Ah, okay.
All right.
Yes.
And I'm convinced you've got that one in the bag because you keep telling me that, so I know that you believe it.
That's just what's gonna happen. Things just work out for me. That's just how it is.
I love it.
But that's another nice thing, though. It's about wishing for things, and and allowing the law of attraction to work is make room for surprises. Now, even if the monster doesn't come through, something else might. Mm-hmm. So it never takes the form of exactly what you asked for, what you wish.
That's
for.
always how it works out for me.
Right. But
Yeah.
but if you do, but my point is, you allow for surprises.
Yes.
And recognize that this is still what you wanted, because another problem that some clients have, that I have, is that they desire something very, very strongly, and then and then when it doesn't happen exactly the way they wanted it to, they get upset. Like, why are you upset? This happened, it happened, but just not the way you wanted to. But, I was committed to that way to make it happen. It's like, no. Or if you, I have a chapter about this in my book too. It's like, if you're telling, spirit, or you're telling law of attraction or the universe, like, I need to have that job, that particular dream job, that one that's right there, the one that I'm interviewing for. I am getting that job, and it doesn't come through. And you're like, what the heck? I put all my energy into this, and then 2 weeks later you get an offer for a better job.
Right.
Because you were not in divine alignment with that particular job. You were in divine alignment with something else. And because you allowed for surprises, you were allowed that to happen. But, you get other cases where people get that other job offer, which is better, but since it wasn't the one they were looking for, or the one they were wishing for, they end up turning down the one that they got. You're like, are you out of your mind?
Well, that's just being ungrateful.
Right.
That's a good point. It is ungrateful. And more than that,
Yeah.
it's being rough on yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I just manifested a miracle, but because the miracle was green instead of red, I'm going to reject it.
Right.
No, you should be grateful it was a color at all.
Yeah, right. That's being
Like,
really
even
hard
when
on
we were-
yourself. Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, even when we were looking into, okay, we're going to build this practice into something that, you know, it's going to be self-sustaining for us, we were thinking, okay, we're going to do this in Vermont because we're committed to Vermont and whatever. But the cogs were not lining up.
Yeah.
You know, as hard as we were trying to build the client base and whatever, it just wasn't lining up.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get resistance from the universe, the resistance is telling you you're pushing in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
You need to pivot.
Yes.
And when you pivot, then you can, then you'll be able to see that other opportunity that's waiting there for you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, if you asked me 3 months ago, what do you think of Portsmouth, New Hampshire? I'd be like, I don't think I want to live by the beach, you know, ocean level rising, whatever, hurricanes. I don't know. But now I'm like,
Let me tell you, living by the beach is the best thing.
Bring it on.
Alex is an expert about living near the beach. She is absolutely an expert at it.
Yes, living by the beach is the best thing.
Because you're only, what,
I-
3 blocks away or something like that?
Yeah. No, I would say 2.
2 blocks?
Wait, 1? No, 3. 3.
Oh, 3
You're
blocks
right.
away, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
My
that's
family
rough.
had a beach house on Long Beach Island in New Jersey, and so every summer I'd be in on the beach. So I got a nice connection. I love the mountains. No, don't get me wrong. I love the mountains. I love the beach too.
No, too scary.
Too scary?
Yes, my mother always told me this story of when her and my father went on a vacation. This is before I was born. Went on a vacation in Vermont, and they went up some mountain that was like 1 lane, and they almost went off the side of the mountain because it was snowing, because my father wanted to go on vacation in the winter because it was cheaper, and they almost went off the side of the mountain. So, no, I don't do mountains. I don't do mountains. Nope.
That was probably not the wisest choice.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah, the mountains in Vermont right now are, the roads up there mostly are impassable without a snowmobile.
Exactly.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So there's also such thing as good judgment.
Yes.
Yeah. He had none of that.
He had none of that.
His judgment went by his wallet. He was like, oh, it's 50% off if we go in December? Okay.
Well, now you know why.
Yeah. Now you know why. Bring your own snowshoes and things on your tires.
Actually, I can do that now. I've never had snowshoes before, but Louise and I got snowshoes for Christmas from friends of ours who live in Mount Snow, Vermont. So for the first time in my life, I could actually go snowshoeing. It would be possible for me. Now, have I done it yet? Absolutely not. But the capability is there.
That sounds like doing the stairs 15 times. That sounds like so much exercise.
I've lived in Vermont for over 4 years, and I have not gone skiing or snowshoed once.
I just don't like snow, rain, any precipitation. I'm not down for it. I don't even know why I live in New England. I was born here, so I'm stuck here.
I've always loved New England. I've always loved the culture here. I've always loved the people.
Yes.
When I grew up in New Jersey, and for the first 10 years of my marriage, we would always spend at least a week in New England. And so when it came time for us to leave New Jersey, and we're like, okay, well, where are we going? It was a no-brainer. Well, let's go to New England because we love it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, people of New England are straight shooters. I mean, not that there are no straight shooters around the country, but you can count on it in New England. You have to look for it in other parts of the country, here. But there's no. In fact, you'll get answers that are blunter than you really wanted, because that's just the nature of the area. Mm-hmm. you want the truth? Okay, here it is, right between the eyes.
Saying that, I'm definitely a New England chick. Let me tell you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the whole thing about mountains and water, I prefer water. I like water a lot more. Louise likes mountains, and that's kind of creating a little bit of a glitch in terms of our mutual "what are we asking for" thing. Because she actually wants to return to the valley at Mount Snow, Vermont, and I really want to end up someplace warm, not necessarily tropical because my skin can't handle it, but someplace warm and I want to be able to walk outside without getting an instant sunburn if I can possibly avoid that.
Right.
I mean, I have spent time in Barbados, and I enjoyed Barbados. The thing I loved about Barbados was being in my chair under the palm tree, because as long as
I'm actually half Bayesian.
Are you really?
I am.
I didn't know that. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. The Bayesians are except for the fact that they don't know how to drive, they're some of the most wonderful people in the world. They really are.
Oh, tell me about it.
And which one? About the fact that they can't drive, or that they're wonderful people?
Yeah.
That they can't
Both.
drive. Both. If you want to have like a roller coaster ride, just ride one of the jitney cabs on Barbados. Just one of them.
Yeah.
That's all it'll take. You'll never ride another one again, I promise.
Well, they say if you can drive there, you can drive anywhere.
This is true. Let's just say
it's like driving in New York.
Let's just say that when we finally made it down into Bridgetown, we were grateful to put our feet on the ground. It was a very happy experience. Yeah. But law of attraction again. Actually, it led to a very good experience because the drivers let us off very close, right down near the port, right near where the ships come in, and there's a little park off on the side. And we said, well, what do we want to do once we're down here? Because we weren't about to ride the cab back, ride the jitney back anytime soon if we couldn't avoid it. And so we said, well, let's take a walk in the park. And so we started walking into the park, and it took about 10 steps, and I got one of those feelings you get that says, no, this isn't right. Don't do this. Don't go there. So I told her that. We stopped, and we turned, trying to figure out what to do. And as we turned toward the curb of this main avenue that we're on, and a cab driver comes up and asks us if we need a ride. And we said, yeah, sure, okay. So we got a ride from this guy. Turned out the guy was named Steve. He was from Canada. And we ended up hiring him to be our private tour driver. So we got a private tour of Barbados with this guy just because we made that turn at that one time. So law of attraction once more. You go with what you feel good. Yeah. So cool stuff. Let's see. We got about 3 minutes left. I want to make sure, actually about a minute and a half left. I want to make sure that I do something I haven't done lately, and that is to remind people, if you're not yet a subscriber, please do become a subscriber. It's free, doesn't cost you a thing, and when you subscribe, you get all of the episodes coming right to your smartphone every single time that we publish them. Easy to do. The links are in virtually everywhere that you can find this podcast recording posted. But if you can't find the links, just go to the homepage of the website, loatoday.net, and it's right there. You really can't miss it. Just pick your device, click it, and it'll walk you right through it. And then once you're a subscriber and listening, make sure you're sharing the fact with your friends that you're enjoying LOA Today. We want to help spread the word. And Bill, how do people find out about your books, and how do they find out about your practice in case they want to reach out to you?
Okay, well, you can find out about the practice by going to my website. The website is ninagee.com. That's NINAGEE.com. You'll see both information for both Nina and myself. My blog's there as well. You can find my books on Amazon. You can find, and also the Conscious Conduit can be found on Barnes & Noble online, and it's also available at Balboa Press's online catalog. So I think that's it. And it's also available as ebook and as a paperback. Excellent.
All right. Very good. Well, Bill, thanks for joining us here on the podcast. We'll see if we can work out something to bring you on permanently. And Alyx, I'll be talking to you tomorrow morning with Kelly Pretty as we do our regular show, the one we're actually scheduled to do. You're doing a lot of fill-ins this week. But that's okay. But no, it's all good stuff. And so we'll invite all our listeners back as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.